Hello again. I gave this video the title Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee because this sums up the way that most right-thinking and progressive people think about the First Nations or Native Americans. They have been mistreated, held down, massacred, confined to reservations and prevented by racial prejudice from getting on in society. White society stacked the cards against them in the 19th century and they are still not able to get on as well as white people. So much for the standard explanation. African Americans use the same playbook when seeking to explain why they cannot rise in American society. It's all the fault of those pesky white folk. I thought that it might be interesting to look at one example of a Native American in the days when such people were universally referred to as Indians, how this person got on in the world at about the same time as the Battle of the Little Bighorn, massacre at Wounded Knee and so on. It is a story which suggests that at least some of the disadvantages faced by such people are illusory. In 1860, a boy was born in Kansas to a woman who was a member of the Kaw and Asogi tribes. His father was white, but the child grew up with his mother's family, with her tribe, and learned to speak only Kansa, an Indian language, and French, which his mother also spoke. In other words, he didn't even speak English as a child growing up in America. He lived with his mother's tribe until he was 9 and later rejoined them. When he was 8, he was caught up in a war between the Kaw and the Cheyenne. The child was known to both white people and Indians as Indian Charlie, since his given name was Charles. Now, according to all that we think we know about those times, we're talking now about the 1870s, 1880s, the prospect for a half-breed boy living on a tribal homeland and known as Indian Charlie does not sound as though it was very promising. Surely there'd be terrible prejudice against him by white people. Well, apparently not, because as a teenager he moved in with his paternal grandparents, attended high school and then qualified in law. He was called to the bar at the age of 21, something of an achievement for anybody at that time, and then practiced law. At the age of 25, he was a prosecuting attorney in Shawnee County, Kansas. Then, when he was in his early 30s, Indian Charlie decided to go into politics, and at the age of 33, the year after the massacre at Wounded Knee, he was elected as a Republican to the House of Representatives. In all this time, there is no indication that he encountered any prejudice or hostility because he was a Native American. He made no secret of it. He was proud of his background. At the age of 69, he became Vice President of the United States when Hoover was President. While in office, he posed for photographs wearing an Indian headdress, and his office was decorated with Indian artifacts. He was proud of his heritage. The story of Charles Curtis, who may be seen in the thumbnail to this video, is a curious one which overturns what we think we know about racial prejudice in America. Curtis was not the only Native American to get on in the world, and he did so because rather than sit and complain that all the odds were against him, he simply carried on like anybody else. He never rejected his Indian background nor tried to hide it. I have an idea that some people today, especially African Americans, might take a leaf out of Charles Curtis' book. If some of them spent less time talking about racism and more time studying law as Curtis did, then perhaps they too would get on in the same way.